Hi everybody, my name is Mark Cicatello. I'm one of the HR consultants here at the Employers Council. We have a great agenda for the Public Employers Conference this year, so let's go in and talk to some of our conference speakers. After our kickoff speaker, Evan Abbott, Tina Harkness will be doing our legal update.
The session really focuses on all the changes that employers need to know about for 2018. We'll talk about the change in administration and the difference a year has made as that's moved on. We're going to talk about sexual harassment. We couldn't not talk about sexual harassment. We're going to talk about marijuana. I mean, already it's a party, right? And then we'll get into some paid leave situations and some pay equity concerns that people have. We'll talk about what the Supreme Court is up to, what the administrative agencies are up to, and we'll go through any notable cases that I think particularly public sectors, but employers, but all employers need to know about for 2018.
We have two breakout sessions, Culture Wars with Laura Ray and Valerie Walton, and Data-Driven Recruiting with Laura Woods.
So in our topic, Culture Wars, we really want to talk about what happens in the public sector workplace that's a little bit different than in the private sector workplace. And sometimes it can create issues that need to be looked at, both from a legal perspective and then also
there's the practical HR piece. Once we know what the law says, there's the piece that is, how do I apply that and how do I make it make sense for our organization?
Yes, so for example, in the private sector, if people start talking about things you don't want to talk about, you just tell them to be quiet. But in the public sector, it doesn't quite work that way, does it?
Not even a little bit. Yeah, in the public sector, individuals still have rights and they get to say some things. So how do you deal with that from an HR perspective and still have an effective, efficient workplace?
I think the market right now is just so tight because the unemployment rate is so low, and we're all really struggling to find good candidates and candidates that are going to fit the positions we need. And I found that it's because they tend to be repeating actions that aren't necessarily successful. So they're doing the same thing over and over again. I call it a hamster wheel. How are we going to get off the hamster wheel? And I think it's all about asking the right questions and finding the right answers to those questions and not making assumptions about hiring for the person, but instead hiring for the position. We're going to talk about looking in some different places or looking at different ways of looking at our needs. Do we have the data that we need to really understand the right person for that position, or to really understand if this position is the right position for that person? So it's matching data to make sure that we can find all the right candidates.
Our keynote speaker is Kathy Nesbitt from the University of Colorado. Let's see what Kathy has to say about her session.
I am looking forward to speaking with all of the public employees about my experiences in working for the state of Colorado. Particularly, I think it's going to be important to talk about resources and the lack of resources, working within a line item budget, for example, partnerships with a variety of different employers within the state of Colorado and outside, and really how to leverage and make the lives of employees and citizens of Colorado better. Oftentimes when you're working in government, employees have been there a very long time, and because we work in a fishbowl, risk aversion often takes precedent over innovation. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of those experiences where folks really want to do good things, but they're afraid a little bit to do that because of the fishbowl, the media consciousness, that comes with some of those particular roles.
Next we have gender transition in the workplace. Need I say more? Let's hear from Rachel.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about transitioning from one gender to another. And this is something you hear about in the news all the time, sometimes for good or for bad. And I want to share my personal story. I transitioned in the workplace from here in Colorado as a sheriff's office lieutenant. I transitioned from male to female, and I want to share some of those experiences, what they were like certainly from my perspective, some of the things that I wish I knew going into this, and maybe some of the things that for an employer it'd be nice to know.
Next we have investigations with Michelle Sturgill.
So I'm going to be talking to our members about investigations in the Me Too world. So we've seen a significant change over the past few months with the kinds of investigations that we are getting questions on, and the number of investigations we're getting questions on. So I'm going to talk to our members about what we're seeing and the common pitfalls I see with our members and how to fix that.
Last but certainly not least, it's our own Curtis Graves.
So the name of my session is Opioids in the ADA. We'll be talking about opioids, why they're no longer called opiates, and how they're involved in the workplace. We'll talk about the science behind it, why the drugs are so much more deadly now than they were 40 or 50 years ago, and what HR professionals need to know to help their employees.
So you've heard from our conference speakers. We have a timely and relevant agenda. And for you private employers, this is a public employers conference, but you are welcome as well. So all you need to do now is just click on that link and register for the conference. I will see you on the 9th.